Movie Mavens, welcome back to another video on the B-Movies channel. My name is Bailey and I put the B in movies. I hope you're having a good week. My week has been chaotic, and it's been a mix of good chaotic and bad chaotic. My social battery is drained. So this is just a friendly reminder to all of you, like, take time to rest, drink lots of water, take time for yourself when you can. Because it's definitely, weeks like this remind me like, oh, you have to get sleep, you have to drink lots of water, and you just need to take care of yourself. So that's all I really have to babble about today. So let's go ahead and jump into this week's blog roundup. So if you're new to the channel, the blog roundup, why we do this every week is because the B-Movies channel is an extension of the B-Movies blog. We started out as a blog and then ventured out into YouTube. So we release new pieces every Monday through Friday at like 10 a.m. Central Time. Again, sometimes I have to fight with WordPress a little bit, but always around them. And if anything is ever different there, we will always put those announcements up on our Instagram, which is just the same as our YouTube at B-Movies channel. So this week over on the B-Movies blog, we had Monday. We talked about I Am Sophie and hashtag Never Alone, which will be our deep dive. If you don't know, these are influencer-based horror ARGs / analog horror stories. I think they're really cool. I think they're two very interesting projects. I think that I just think they're wonderful. And so we'll talk more about that here shortly. On Tuesday, we talked about Liquid Television. If you don't remember, this was way back in the early 90s. MTV had a show called Liquid Television where they grabbed up all different types of animators to make things. It's how, like, Beavis and Butthead got its start. It's where Aeon Flux... Excuse me. It's where Aeon Flux started. It was just a really cool little show, and it's never aired since, and so we just kind of dive into the history of Liquid Television. On Wednesday, we talked about Judy Greer. Love Judy Greer. She's so much more than just a character actor, and I just think she's great, and so we definitely did a spotlight on her, finally. Thursday, we talked about coming-of-age movies. Y'all know I love a good coming-of-age movie, and so it was time to finally throw out some recommendations. And then yesterday, we ended the week with Drawing a Blank number 3. Like I said in the piece, there will probably be at least 2 more coming, because I just went down a rabbit hole of, like, cartoons. Like, they just started coming from the deep recesses of my brain. Some came up in my research, and so there will probably be, like, 2 more of these at least for now, so get excited to see those come up soon. So just to recap, this week over on the B-Movies blog, I Am Sophie and hashtag Never Alone, Liquid Television, Judy Greer, Coming of Age movies, and Drawing a Blank. So next up, we have our Bite Size Sunday teaser. Again, if you're new around here, every Sunday around 8 or 9 Central Time over on our Instagram, which is again at B-Movies channel, I drop a little mini review, and it's just content I want to talk about, but I don't necessarily know if it constitutes a full piece. And so this way we can still talk about it, but just in a different medium. And so the hint for this week is hold for laughter and meta commentary. And so we'll talk about it because I did not watch this content in its original run. I've been watching it this weekend, and I can't wait to tell you all my thoughts about it. So now that we've got the housekeeping taken care of, let's jump into today's deep dive. And so the deep dives, these are just either more in-depth discussions about pieces over on the B-Movies blog, discussions about things that are similar to what we talked about that week, so on and so forth. So this week, let's talk about I Am Sophie and hashtag Never Alone. So, as we all know, I watch a lot of YouTube. I really got into it during lockdown in 2020. Excuse me, because those who don't know, my city was locked down for like 3 weeks. I think we were locked down for like 3.5 weeks. And additionally, this should not come as a surprise, Instagram is my social media platform of choice. And so We all know I love a good analog horror story, analog horror series. We all know I love horror ARGs, and so with all of this in mind, it should come as no surprise that I've really been thinking about and revisiting some influencer horror ARGs lately. And so in my mind, there are two big ones in my book. And they are I Am Sophie and hashtag Never Alone. And I know Ash Vlogs, I was on the fence about adding Ash Vlogs in here. But I don't think Ash Vlogs has quite the same vibe as these two. And so I am going to talk about Ash Vlogs. Sorry, y'all, I don't know why my allergies just got bad. I'm going to talk about Ash Vlogs in a different piece. So we'll talk about Ash Vlogs later. There's also a lot more to dive into with Ash Vlogs than these other two. So that will be coming. And I also, as an added bonus, I have an idea for an ARG that I've been... Oh no, we're going to have bangs part 2 this week. I need to go get my bangs trimmed. I've had an idea for a horror ARG. And I just don't have the time or, just to be honest, like the talent, the training, the education around making it. So all I ask is if any of you do decide to do it, you just have to credit me. That's all I ask. So I'm going to give you some generic overviews, especially with I Am Sophie. If you want a deep dive, like a deep analysis video or video series, just go on YouTube, because for I Am Sophie in particular, there are so many good, oh my gosh, y'all, my bangs, there are so many good video analyses out there about I Am Sophie, especially, so definitely just look that up, and you can get some, like, really, really deep dives on it. So let's go ahead and start out with I Am Sophie. If you're not familiar, I Am Sophie dropped back in 2020, and as soon as the first video dropped, which was the new queen of YouTube, it was very clear that something was afoot, and that something would eventually become a roller coaster of a horror ARG. And the first few entries of this series are great, and I would be so bold as to almost say, like, the first half to 2/3 of I Am Sophie are wonderful. I love the concept of, like, this stereotypically wealthy and out-of-touch influencer being basically chased down by, like, the negative side of the internet, his possessed lackeys. Like, I love this concept. And, you know, like, Tom Ransom, who's the creator of I Am Sophie, even, like, sent cuts of this to film festival. It looks like it won first place at one in Rhode Island, I believe, is what... When I was researching, it was a little hard to kind of, like, decipher everything, but I believe it even won first place at least one festival that I saw. And so, the first few entries are great. And again, I would say first half to 2/3 to just, like... to just really put the oomph on it. But once we start getting deeper into the Lana stuff, once we get into, like, the Max stuff, I just think we kind of lose the plot, and the ending, you know, leaves something to be desired. But in Tom Ransom's defense, though, I feel like maintaining a series of this caliber was so time-consuming and difficult, and I don't believe he'd ever done anything like this before, and, like, as a creator myself, you'll know that I don't know why that sounds so weird for me to call myself that, but, like, as a creator myself, I sometimes feel burnout, and all I do is film one video a week for y'all. And so, like, I can't even imagine bringing something like this to life, and not only bringing it to life, but to continue pumping out and creating content for it. Like, that's crazy to me. And so I do want to give him some grace there of, like, this was a big undertaking, and especially for, like, a first project like this. And so the I Am Sophie channel is still up, as is her Instagram account. I highly recommend checking both of them out. I will link them below. But yeah, I think I Am Sophie is wonderful, and I think it definitely deserves all of its dues. So next up we have hashtag Never Alone, and this was an ARG, and this was a wild one. So Cassandra Clem, her Instagram account came up, and it started out just kind of like any aspiring influencers, really. It was just, uploads of like artistic pictures of her coffee, different outfits, just her, performing her daily activities. And it just became more and more sinister. So through like comments from other accounts, captions on her Instagram, and other various uploads, it became very clear that like Cassandra's mental health was deteriorating before our very eyes, and there was something more to this seemingly just aspiring influencer's account. And so the minds behind #NeverAlone were revealed to be Chloe Cole, who actually played Cassandra, Sabina Friedman Seitz, and Anna Miles. And much like Tom Ransom, they compiled everything into a horror short called Zenith that made its way into the 13 Minutes of Horror Film Festival, which is really cool. So I couldn't find the actual short film online. I know that the 13 Minutes of Horror, they get uploaded to Shudder, so it might be there. I have Cassandra Clem's account linked in the piece. I'm not sure how much of it is still up. But there are a lot of articles, especially because this one was both of these came out like right in the throes of the pandemic. And so there are a lot of articles and a lot of research about both of these. So if you want like a more in-depth look, definitely, if you just search, it's all out there, I promise. So this leads us to my ARG idea. And I've been noodling with this idea for a long time, and I think it has some legs to it. But I don't have the time or the training or the talent or the education to do any of this. So if any of you do this, you just have to credit me with this idea. So Claire, and I'm not married to that name, but that's just what in my draft I have down. So she starts out as like a mommy vlogger who posts videos like with her kid regularly. And then suddenly there's just a switch in content. And she just starts uploading like more traditional content, like get ready with me's, travel vlogs, you name it. And like her kid is nowhere to be seen. So then people start asking her where her kid went. And this could present itself just either starting in the comments, or you could have her do like a Q&A and be like, what are y'all talking about? And Claire has no recollection of this kid or having been a mommy vlogger. And there are no, like, she even does a house tour, and she's like, yo, there's nothing in my home, and there's nothing in her home. Everything that we've seen in previous videos, like the toys, any sort of kid snacks, kid necessities, none of it's there. And she's like, I have no clue what y'all are talking about. And so it's also kind of similar to Everyman Hybrid, where, like, she can't see certain uploads. So, like, she thinks, like, we're all just pulling a prank or, like, trying to gaslight her. And she's like, I have no clue what y'all are talking about. So then a little bit on, one of the viewers sends her a copy of the video. It could be, you could have it be on a flash drive, however you want to present it, DVD, Blu-ray, whatever. And then she starts going on a mission to find the child she can't remember and try to return to a life that may or may not be hers. And I feel like we're in a very unique time where there's a lot of potential to involve like other YouTubers, provide a lot of commentary around the YouTube and influencer space, etc. And I haven't quite fleshed out what the big bad is, but I do think there's something here with this idea of like really playing off of, there's a mommy vlogger, suddenly she's just like doing regular influencer content and has no idea what we're talking about. So again, if one of you makes it, you just have to credit me. And all I ask is you somehow involve the B-Movies channel. Either let me review it, whatever. That's all I ask. But that's my big ARG idea that I've had for a while now. And I think it has legs. So next up, let's hop into special features. We have some good stuff today. Well, some good and some bad. So we'll start out strong. My bangs. Gotta get my bangs trimmed. Let's start out with Deadpool and Wolverine. So I went and saw, as I told you last week, I went and saw Deadpool and Wolverine and Cuckoo for my birthday. And so for Deadpool and Wolverine, I'm going to do a bit of a confession here. I did not like the first Deadpool movie. I am a Deadpool convert. And I know that that sounds wild, and it's about to get wilder, because I loved Deadpool 2, and that's what sold me on the Deadpool universe. And I don't know how many people would willingly say that, and would also, like, people are probably looking like I'm crazy, but it's just the truth. I was not the biggest fan of the first Deadpool movie, and I was like, okay, like, I get, like, it's Ryan Reynolds, there's meta commentary, like, I get it, but I loved the second one. And I loved Deadpool and Wolverine. It's a love letter to Marvel, which I was raised on. It's a love letter to pop culture in general. Most importantly, we get justice for for Jennifer Garner's Elektra. I always keep trying to say Carmen Electra's Elektra, and I don't know why. That's the growing up in the aughts in me. But if you grew up like me, where, like, movies like Elektra and Stick It were kind of like, oh yeah, I'm definitely not straight, I'm so glad that we got justice for Jennifer Garner's Elektra. So I highly recommend watching Deadpool and Wolverine, and even if you're not a big Deadpool fan, watch the second one and watch this one, because that's what converted me. And again, I'm sure people are rolling their eyes in the back of their heads. I know, I'm sorry. It's just the truth. But definitely 2 thumbs up for me on Deadpool and Wolverine. So now let's talk about Cuckoo. As a lot of you know, I had really, really, really high hopes for Cuckoo. It was one of my most anticipated releases of this summer, and it really let me down. I'll just be very, very honest. So let's start with the positives. Dan Stevens was phenomenal. Y'all know, I think Dan Stevens is one of the sexiest men alive. I think he's a phenomenal actor. Wonderful. The cast was super solid. I think it's an interesting premise. I do. But I think we needed more context here. I'm 99% sure that I understood everything and get, like, what the big reveals were and everything. But this is an instance where we needed to tell, not show, or show, not tell, like have just montages. We really needed more exposition here. And people may disagree with me, but that's just how and again, to give one of my famous disclaimers, just because I didn't like a movie doesn't make it a bad movie. Just because I like a movie doesn't make it a good movie. So this is just all my opinion. I still think whenever people make a movie, as long as obviously it is not something offensive or, as long as it's not something offensive and horrible in that vein, I think it's badass that movies get made. I'd really like to read the book to see if we're left to connect as many dots or if we're given this context. But that was my thing, is like, it went a little bit too art housey at times for me, and we need more exposition. We are missing some context here. And I feel like with the amount of moments of exposition we get, I was like, we're almost there. So that's how I feel about Cuckoo. I would probably give it like a 7 out of 10 ish in there. So again, definitely still watch it if you were looking forward to it. I may be missing something, because again, just because I don't like it doesn't make it a bad movie, but that it did let me down. So that's Cuckoo. So that was my birthday double feature of Deadpool, Wolverine, and Cuckoo. Deadpool, Wolverine, loved it. Cuckoo, thought it was fine. So now to move on to something exciting, we have new McKinney Family Home videos. We do. First of all, hey Diana, hey girl. Thank you so much for reaching out and commenting on the last video where we covered the McKinney Family Home videos. Appreciate your kind words. That comment is probably going to be wild for people who don't know what I'm talking about, but I just wanted to say, hey Diana, hey girl, hey. And secondly, my skin was crawling yet again. Seriously, like, if you want to talk about atmosphere and you haven't watched the McKinney family home videos, this is atmosphere. Because a lot of the footage itself is not even inherently creepy. It's just the way it is paired with diegetic sounds, with distant dialogue, with the title cards. And that scene in this video, without spoiling anything, I'm going to kind of do an out of context spoiler, I guess. The scene with the bloody hand on that sigil, with that distorted laughing and crying, that 20 seconds, my God, is more horrifying than some horror movies I've watched lately. Just this video, to be quite frank, is scarier than some movies I've seen recently. And what I love about this series, too, is it has a perfect amount of gore. It's not too much, and it's not too little. Y'all really know what you're doing about balance. I just need y'all to know, y'all are extremely talented over there on finding this balance with the atmosphere and the gore and the breadcrumb, how you're breadcrumbing the story along. It's chef's kiss for me. And, this episode has also unlocked a new fear for me of either A, being trapped alone in a little attic, or B, walking through a dark building and the attic's open. The new fear unlocked. I also fully I felt it in my soul, because I'm pretty sure this takes place in a church. And I could see in my head churches I grew up in, and walking around that building at dark playing sardines or hide and seek. I could see the schematics in my head and those blueprints in my head of how this was laid out. And that's why I think this series gets me so much, is I think it's the subtleties. And I think it's how everything is so perfectly balanced. It really sets up those big scares. It makes things scary that may not inherently be scary. And if my last video did not convince y'all to watch it, you've got to watch it. Truly. To me, this is one of the scariest analog horror series out right now. Kudos. Cannot give y'all enough credit. I will definitely link the McKinney Family Home Videos channel below, as well as this new video, which is COTHM Welcome Home 1991. And yeah, I'm just telling you, watch this. Because things don't bother me. Things do not stick with me. Y'all know this. It takes a lot to scare me. And last night I was watching this, and it was still light out. And I still had goosebumps. So definitely check this series out if you haven't already. So next up we have New Midwest Angelica in Exodus. So Exodus starts out on April 4th of 1999, aka Easter Sunday, which, we had a video earlier that was Easter. And Dr. Churchill tells us that they're planning to complete the Babylon project today. And so the big reveal about Babylon, we know, was that they have Dr. Spencer. They basically cryo-froze him. And so they're planning to inject him with some composition of, that's alien virus. And it allegedly, and I quote, will quote unquote make him the most powerful human being in all of history, which never ends well. So once they've injected Dr. Spencer, the Tower of Babel that we've seen in previous videos should activate, and Dr. Spencer should be able to control this entire fleet / hive mind. And this should also mark the end of Starkill. So we cut between footage of the different cameras in the Tower of Babel, as well as the surgical footage of the spinal implant that they're getting ready to inject Dr. Spencer with. So then we see this what I just saw is a red fleshy thing run in front of the camera really fast. And we learn that Dr. Spencer has escaped. And so once we see that thing run by, all the cameras start to go dark. So then we cut to footage of the chaos that has been brought on, because this whole plan is just a failure. And so Aaron and Churchill, begin running through Babel and like running out of Babel. And then we cut back to look, whoever filmed the camera cuts back to look, and we see like the tendrils coming out of the side of the Tower of Babel. So like we can assume that is probably Dr. Spencer. So then Aaron and Churchill go to like some sort of high security bunker that I believe Churchill established in case things went south. And so they're trying to like save data and save humanity, and then messages from our alien peeps begin to transmit through. And the message isn't great because it addresses Churchill directly, basically reads him for filth, honestly. And then Admiral Nero tells him there's really nothing they can do to stop the invasion, and basically to like stick their head between their legs and kiss their butts goodbye. And so Churchill and Aaron move outside. They try to fight off what they can. And then they start speeding away. And Aaron and Churchill, this is the only part that kind of confused me a little bit. They unalive someone, and I think what it is so that it was someone who was assimilated, and that's when Aaron takes on that identity, because Aaron receives a new mission where basically he's like to infiltrate everything going on at Babel and report back. So then, towards the end of the video, Dr. Churchill kind of addresses us directly in what's basically a vlog, and tells us that Aaron was able to infiltrate Babel, and so he's working on getting everything we need. Admiral Nero's like planning like this big conference to basically, again, tell all of humanity to kiss their butts goodbye. And Dr. Churchill is planning to kind of like interrupt the conference to declare war and try to save humanity. And, you know, he also waxes poetically about his own mortality and the moxie of humanity and the heart of humanity, and how like that's how we're going to defeat these things, hopefully. And so that's where we leave this one. So I personally definitely want to do like a big Midwest Angelica rewatch soon, because I'd love to see just kind of how everything got to this point. I still love this series so much because it's so unique. Like, there's nothing I can really think to compare it to. And so, as always, I'll link their channel below, link the video below. And yeah, I love this series so much because it's just so unique. Last up for our special features, we have Vintage 8. Hi, hello, Vintage 8. How's it going? With Steps of the Eye Part 3. So we've covered the previous 2 in other videos. And so we start to get more insight in this one on how, like, the meeting of the eye went. And, like, it sounds wild based on this account. We're talking, like, hooded robes, masks that look like big old eyes, like, you name it. And so it turns out that there are like hundreds of people in this cult, like hundreds is how it's described. And we also find out that the Eye was serious about knowing the pledge because 2 of the 8 inductees are actually taken to a separate room and seem to be given over to the aforementioned children of the static. So like they are serious, it seems, on everything that they said about joining this fine institution. So, those who made it through were given another VHS tape to watch, and to say the least, this tape is intense. Just sidebar, Vintage 8, major props on the visuals on this one. It's really cool. And this tape, like, asks each potential inductee to bring something of significance to burn, to, like, represent burning your own life. However, if their sacrifice, like, isn't up to par or isn't well met, they'll be cast into the fire. And so, big ol' yikes there. But Vintage 8, you know, we love your stuff. Love this one, because we all know Sinkhole is one of my favorite Vintage 8 series. And so I love the connection between these two. And so I'll link, again, Vintage 8's channel and this video below, because it's a really fun series. So yeah, that will do us for special features today. So let's go ahead and wrap it up with today's subtitles. So subtitles, again, just little fun pieces of internet news and pop culture news that I just want to share. My bangs, whatever. This is the part, I've just given up, so. Y'all, I don't know. Lord help me, because my bangs are always fun until I start recording and then they're like, So, first up, The Boys, Claudia, I saw two different pronunciations, so it's either Dumit or Do-Me, so we will say either. For those who don't know, she played Victoria Newman on The Boys. She's officially joined the cast of Soulmate, which is the movie that's an extension of the Megan's universe. We talked about this before, like Jermaine Clement is in it, which I'm very interested about. The cast getting pretty stacked, so I'm definitely excited for this one. A new movie by Finn Wolfhard and Billy Byrne has been announced called Hell of a Summer. It's going to be released through Neon, and it should be out sometime next year. The Salem's Lot remake that we have all been patiently waiting on and we're kind of scared was just going to get shelved will officially be hitting Max in October, and the first look images are killer. So I'm really excited to see, I'm really excited to see how this one turns out, because I've actually heard that it's very good. So I'm very confused why it stuck in such development hell for so long. Elizabeth Lail has recently confirmed she will be returning to FNAF 2, which means Vanessa's character will be in FNAF 2, which we know from last week, Matthew Lillard allegedly said that will be coming out in December of next year. And then finally, the Boulet brothers are getting their own characters in Dead by Daylight, which I think is very cool and very fun, and I think they are definitely getting praise that they've deserved for a very long time. And so I just want to give a huge shout out to them, because those that are in the Dragula, like, we've been new, but I'm just glad that, like, they're really starting to get the acclaim that they deserve. So I think that will do us. I think it's time to wrap things up. So feel free to follow me on Instagram at Lisa_Frankenstein_. Feel free to follow Elliot at reading.with.red. Follow us at bmovies channel. Be sure to subscribe if you're not subscribed. It is free. Give us a like if you feel so inclined, and leave a comment if you're feeling frisky. And so I think on that note, all that's left to do is fade to black.